Hi, this is a look at Uncanny X-Men issue 7, part 2 of the Raid on Graymalkin crossover, written by Gail Simone, penciled by David Marquez and Edgar Salazar, ink by David Marquez and Victor Olazaba, and colored by Matthew Wilson. Full spoilers ahead, so you're forewarned. There were some good in this issue, but mostly it is a disappointment. I had several questions regarding the crossover after reading part 1, and a few of them were answered in this issue. So I mentioned in the X-Men review that Scott would have reached out to Rogue, and here we are. I'm glad we have that scene. Regarding the lack of powers dampening collars, it turns out they have Anchor's dampener. So, okay, check. And then regarding perimeter, I don't know why it did not kick in immediately in part 1 of the story, but it is apparently in operation here. So these are the questions that were answered, but there are things that do not sit quite well with me with this in this issue. So one, why would Rogue and everyone else wait for Scott to step up? Hi, Future Tyler here. Because he did so during the Messiah era. I actually think that would have made sense. Yes, he took a bit of a back seat during Krakoa, but we all know he could and perhaps he should have stepped up. But the bigger issue is this. Why did the senior X-Men abandon all displaced Krakoan that chose not to stay in the White Hot Room? Why did they not protect all the mutants, especially the young ones and the more vulnerable ones, and make sure that they have a home to go to or somewhere safe? Why are they all scattered around the globe? Why are they all so irresponsible? We asked that question in the past. I distinctively remembered in one of the NYX review. And it became very, very apparent in that the senior X-Men failed every displaced Krakoan, right? It is a massive oversight, and it is frustrating to see my favorite characters, fail so badly, Yep. And that brings us to yet another question regarding Graymalkin prison, right? Under whose authority are they operating with? Firstly, why is Scott afraid that the act of freeing kidnapped mutants be viewed as an act of war? I mean, an act of war against who? If this is a clandestine operation or privately funded militia, there should not be this fear. If this is a government-sanctioned operation, and within it there were some clandestine ops, then trying to break free people captured using clandestine ops should not be viewed as an act of war. Like, I really don't know, and I don't know if most people will be bothered by it, but it really, really bothers me because it does not make any sense. I agree. I mean, it makes very little sense also that Rogue and Scott could not come to an understanding. I mean, they both have valid reasons, so why not work hand in hand? I mean, if Scott is afraid of it becoming an act of war, why not sideline some of the members as reserves and then rescue all the kidnapped mutants with some members from both teams? Rogue could take the place of Juggernaut, for example. Rogue would also not have to involve the baby mutants, and Magic and Kurt could teleport in, with two smaller teams, one to distract and one to rescue. Like, I'm not trying to be the backseat driver here, but it makes zero sense to me that X-Men would not want to work together. Exactly. And you can see where the frustration lies, right? Like, Scott knew Rogue would not back off, and he is a strategist. So work with what you have, right? Use all available resources, including Rogue and the other X-Men, and not set up this flimsy excuse to make like two X-Men team fight each other. To be fair though, the fight was partly a misunderstanding and partly caused by scurvy. So, but all those are valid points. And then, Juggernaut broke through the walls to a vault, which they suspect is where Xavier is locked up, and that stopped the flight. And the trustee shows up. So, yay, more mutants fighting mutants. There are some bits in this issue that I like, or at the very least pique my interest. So this is not just like, oh, it's all bad, So once again, Psylocke is by Scott Sy, kind of like his number 2. I like that. Like, she was, after all, one of the Krakoan war captains, so that makes sense. And then we have Ember and Calico. There's something going on there. Like, Ember is unlikely to be just a horse, and given the fantasy theme surrounding Calico, Ember could be her familiar of some sort, maybe. We already know that he's probably part of her powers somehow. And there is also this little bit about her mom speaking to her telepathically or something. I also noticed that Death Dream is speaking to a third party or parties constantly, and we are seeing only one half of the conversation. Like, we will hopefully get an issue where we see things from his point of view and perhaps get the entire conversation with presumably his dead friends. Now, given that this is a crossover and that one issue leads into another, it annoys me that even with just 2 titles, the coordination had seemingly proven too much, right? It is not too much to ask that events in 2 books involved in a crossover make sense, right? Not at all. What I'm referring to is this. In X-Men 8, we have the guards beating on Beast, while the Warden gets a comms message from Captain Urza that they are under attack by the Alaskan X-Men. One of the guards even asked if they should bring the mutants back to the cell, but the Warden told them, keep beating on Beast, while she headed to the control center. In this issue, we have a scene where Calico and Jubilee were taken to their cells, clearly after the mess hall scene, as the Beast beatdown was referenced, with Captain Urza and the Warden. The Alaskan X-Men attack had not happened. This is the part that really confounded me. We were speculating that there were some last-minute changes in part 1 of the crossover, as it involves like 3 different Inkles. And here we have Salazar and Olazaba filling in for part of this issue where this mismatch occurred. So it is kind of impossible to tell where the coordination failed. Is it the writers? Is it the suspected last-minute art change? Or is it the editors? Right? Some behind-the-scenes situation caused this, and that is what my spider sense is telling me. But to give credits where credit's due, part of it do line up perfectly between part 1 and 2, right down to even the dialogue. So we have 2 different art teams in this issue, and not surprisingly, I like Marquez's portion better, even though the Salazar Olazaba's portion is good. It just did not have quite the same flair as Marquez's art. Like, I appreciate that Salazar Olazaba's art has a lot of background details, and I suspect if they drew an entire issue without the direct comparison, it would look much better. And also, given that we suspect that probably the pages they drew might have to do with some last minute changes, it's understandable if it is not as good. Yeah. Apart from that, I really enjoy seeing Marquez draw all the other characters. His Psylocke especially looks really, really good. And all the varied background that he filled in, right? From Louisiana to the factory, to Graymalkin prison, sets the distinct scenes very well. I also like the way he framed the two teams as opposites, like when Scott and Rogue were arguing on the phone, all the panels, except for maybe one, had them looking at opposite directions. Like Scott is always looking to the left, while Rogue is always looking to the right. And one of my favorite panels in this issue is that sort of sepia panel where every X-Men's face is in shadows. I think it is really, really cool as every character is cleverly drawn to be distinct and recognizable. If only Wolverine and Death Dream could be squeezed into the panel. And the fight scenes were appropriately chaotic given the number of characters, and Marquez's accentuate the chaos by changing from one fight to the next in quick succession. The Beast panel is the other favorite panel of mine, packing in movement and a lot of characters into not a very large panel. I think it's fun. So in conclusion, even though I really like how part 1 started, in combination with this one, the crossover is a bit of a mess. Like in the mismatched scenes with part 1, and with some of the reasoning that led to the fight between the two teams. It is at best a 3 out of 5 for me. Agree. The excellent art moves this up several notches where I thought it should be. So if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like and subscribe button. Please share this with your friends and leave a comment below, even if it is to say how wrong we are. Thanks, and Tyler out.